Group Diamond Show Part 1. Welcome everyone. So this show is going to be broadcasting, I guess online, streaming, so it will be worldwide. First show starting today, Part 1. So we could mention Part 1 in each show, so it's easy to remember, and also the title of the show. So easily you can go back and refer to anything from the parts. It will be easier to understand. Anyways, so the topic of the show, there will be many topics, but the main topic of the show right now, because first time the show, we've been planning this for a while, but it will be about meditation, spirituality, astrology, numerology, and energy. So first one we're going to discuss is astrology. We'll start from there, the topic, because the impact of astrology in our lives is much vast and impacting huge compared to what most people may think. You know, they go on with their everyday lives and they're like, well, you know, there's astrology out there, there's psychics that, you know, charge a lot of money and, you know, you don't get enough answer information. But anyways, the point is that we want to make sure that everything is discussed openly, honestly. So no hidden secrets in these discussions. That's the whole point of it, of this topic, because we tried to unlock the mysteries, right? So there's no hidden discussions from me and the audience. We just could openly talk. Well, now they call it free speech, but I guess openly, free speech, transparency. So the reason I'm picking astrology as the first topic is because astrological impact on planet Earth, and of course in the cosmos and universe, but specifically where we live, planet Earth, astrology has an impact. Now most people know about the 12 signs of astrology from January to December, 20 or 21st of each month. The cusp comes for each sign. I mean, these are you heard probably on the newspapers and articles or some TV cultural shows and stuff. But if we don't go to talk about the basics, because basics most people know, right? So we will talk about something that's not basic. There is something that's not so much talked about. So you must have heard out there a lot about astrology, like here and there, like I said, but you wouldn't hear deep conversations, such as, let's start from topic, let's see, okay, let's first start from the signs, as I said, like 12 signs, right? So of course each sign is different attributes, has cusp on the 21st of each month. But is it just you know, just for fun astrology, or is it just like people think, okay, you know, it gives you some insight for the moment and then you pass on? Or is it controlling us to the point, I call it pre-programmed, like a simulation, so it's a pre-program. So pre-program is something that, you know, when a person is born, there's a blueprint chart, and then they grow up, they live a life, and of course then we pass away. But the astrological impact from birth, destiny, all that, like I said, so it is a simulation sort of pre-programming, but this pre-programming is so hidden and so rooted into a human spirit, mind, soul, emotions, the nervous system even, I would go as far as that. So it's like our whole being is an astrological universe, if you think about it in that concept, like a simple term to simplify it. It's like a conscious level of the constellation. It's just like we're talking about the stars, right? Universe, constellation. So it's like sort of like we are the universe, right? Reflecting it in all these astrological attributes and deep impacts and deep things, like we go into, like, like this is the first show, so we're going to talk very slow. I don't want to go too fast. I'll think slow too, so we'll take it slow. So then there is stuff like in the astrology you go into it, right? So then you're looking at, okay, so what does that mean? Like why is the universe upside down, or like into the person? Yeah. So that's the thing. The pre-programming is so powerful, and every person born, of course, is unique to that universe. So are we saying that everybody is the same universe? No. See, this is one of the key points I was going to mention later, but we can start on it now. The universe is one, like, let's say, entity for now, right? So it's like an energy entity, but cosmos. But now each person being born on a different time and day and hours and all that, the uniqueness, even if it's born 15 minutes away, 10 minutes away, 5 minutes away, whatever the birth time is, it will have a shift on it, right? So people are going to be born unique from the other person, right? So that's why the uniqueness is there. But now, why this universe part, right? So the universe part is going to be where you're thinking, well, this sounds like a big stuff. So I thought I was just a person, now I'm thinking, well, there's this whole universe inside me. Well, that's the thing, right? So we are made from the astrological inspirations of the universe. So that's why we're sort of connected. That's the real reasoning, I want to say, behind my investigations about all these topics. And this is pre-programmed into us uniquely, so we can connect back to the universe, right? And then somebody can argue, well, look around in the world today in 2025, or even you go in the history of past, doesn't matter, and you might say, well, there is not a strong connection. Like people come, they pass away, and things stay the same. Nothing ever changes, right? Very little. But we are told, oh, look, new things coming, so much changing over the years, hundreds of years and all that. But think about it, not much is changing. It's all delusion, distractions, So, like, it just changes its form. But everyday stuff stays same, right? So not a lot of change in that way. So anyways, now when you see something like, you talk about, okay, so if that's the case, if it's pre-programmed into the person, then how do you unlock it? Because most people, like I said, they don't look at the astrological chart, birth chart, or they won't go for like astrological reading. So they will think, it might cost a lot of money. Is this accurate information? Right? I mean, these are all good, genuine questions. I mean, am I being told something? I have to think and believe in it, or do I have to connect with it? Meaning, like, if somebody says something to you, you connect with it, then that's how you validate, right? But if you can't make a connection, somebody could have even been telling you sometimes the truth, and you will not connect. So this is the dangerous aspect of astrology, that sometimes we miss the truth because we're not connecting. So this is what I want to show to my audience. Something new that people are afraid to talk about. So there's nothing to fear it. It's just you have to have a lot of knowledge behind it to talk about. As you can see, I'm building up this conversation into a concept, into a riddle, into an unlocked mystery, into a door that we can unlock with this key, and then we can go inside that door. And when we do that, then we see things. We all see differently, yes, but we all see same things, interpret a little differently, but same things. So, other questions may arise from the audience. I mean, again, some people have interest in these things, some don't. So why are we having the discussion? This discussion is that it's a high importance that before we function in society, then we need to look at the internal conditions, internal pre-programming, simulation, all about inside us first, spiritually, meditation, energy, mind. So we have to know stuff, right? I mean, I'm sure everybody would agree with, most people would agree with that. We need to know things first before we step out the house, step out the door and talk about different topics to people, deal with society, different issues, topics. Because if you don't get the basics of what I am talking about, which is again a unique conversation, most people in my life, I haven't seen it out there. I know a lot of a lot of talk show hosts and lots of people out there talk about world events and history and other things. But it's very rare. It's very rarely you get someone who will diagnose into events depth to a very high level of knowledge, right? Like a scientific high level knowledge to even have such a conversation. Because it's nice, as you can see me talking right now. Like you're thinking, right, when you're listening. But the thing is that these conversations we're having, so scientifically I'm talking, you're listening, but these conversations unravel into bigger conversations. So this is just a starting point, like I said, part one. But now this conversation raises the concern and the curiosity in most people that why are we having this conversation? Why haven't most other people having these conversations? Why is this conversation, in a way I would say, forbidden? We're not supposed to know the truth or talk about it. Now at this point we're not putting any blame on anybody. We mean like mentally, like our own nature, that interacts with everything around us. So there is no fear in this. The more you learn and the more you know, less the fear. Because more the knowledge and more the understanding, and as we move forward. But to think that we're very smart or intelligent and wise and we go out there, we can deal with all kinds of people and things, and we come out fine. Okay, we may be in our perception fine, but doesn't mean we are fine. Because a lot of times you miss things. When you think that fast, that's why I'm talking so slow in the first show, as you can see. So when people miss a lot of things, they're like, okay, well, I had a good day or a bad day, but I missed stuff. And you missed stuff because you weren't slow enough. You were going too fast. So it's like, you go fast, everything goes, too fast. It's not about being intelligent, it's just too fast. You cannot grasp it all at once anyways, right? But if we slow down, not only our conversation, speech, take a moment as I'm thinking and then talking, right? Thinking first then talk, old saying. But now you have to see. So now you can say, okay, well, I'm slowing down, I'm thinking a little slowly, okay, and that's helping to, convert and process everything through the brain. And then you say, okay, now maybe I'm still going too fast, gotta slow down more. Because there's so many things going on with me, each person, so maybe gotta slow down more, not slow down too much, but it's enough to kind of deal with one thing at a time. So that's kind of the point I'm making. But then you're like, okay, so I slow down, and also your physical action, but also slow down your speech, your thinking process, you gotta slow down. Because it's natural to think a lot of things at once. That's a natural thing we all have. But we gotta be able to process each one separately. Now somebody might say, that sounds like a machine, right? Yeah, it does sound like a machine. Because the brain we have, the mind, it is designed, it's kind of a machine, right? Because it's like a computer. It's taking all this information in, the memory and RAM and all that kind of stuff, and processing it through, and then it goes through the output, and it's similar kind of concept, right? But then, so if that's what it is, then what do? Well, we gotta slow down and we gotta say, okay, we just had 10 thoughts in 10 minutes, that's fine. Now we can pick and choose, of course, out of those 10 thoughts, right? That's the funny part. We can pick and choose, okay, I'm having a nice dinner or a lunch, at the patio outside at a restaurant, or looking at the scenery or being at the beach, whatever it may be. You're like, okay, well, which one I'm going to pick now? Because a lot of thoughts are going through while I'm eating or going out, doing whatever. So now, stay focused on what you're doing, always. So, now this is just for conversation purposes, right? Of course, when you do a job, you may have to work fast, right? I mean, that's a whole different thing. I'm talking about, all this discussion is about in people's spare time, When you have your own spare time, then you decide what you're going to do. It's your time, right? Your free time, and you decide if you're going to go slow, you're going to go fast. Even when you're driving, you have to drive a certain speed, right? Like, that's all normal. But when you're thinking thoughts, like when you are doing personal things, like when you're not driving, or I guess not sleeping, or even not walking, I would say in most cases, that's when we say, okay, I have time to think. I'm sitting down, having a tea or something, but I would only have a decaf tea in my case because it's a little more healthier, right? No caffeine, but just in your spare time, you do your things you have to do. Do your legal stuff for the day. If you're on the road or you're at the job, whatever, that's separate. Once you're after the hours, you're not driving down, you're at home or with friends or family, or you're going to meet somebody somewhere, then you get your time. You get your personal time, right? Whether spiritual meditation or whatever. So I wanted to get that out of the way. So an understanding that what context I'm talking about it, right? We're talking about personal time when you're not doing other important legal things or driving or doing something very important that you cannot, distract from, slow down or fast or do it a normal way. Anyways, back to the topic. So basically, you have to think that I'm having these thoughts. So now, because it gets very confusing, right? People think, like, it took me time too, like again, everything is natural, right? So everything meaning like most I'm talking about. So it can happen to anyone, it can happen to me, like, you have to train yourself to say, okay, so you have to pay attention, not to things around you all the time, but to yourself too, That's what I'm talking about, in that context. So in that context, you pay attention to yourself, you say, okay, I'm not going to be constantly busy here, I'm going to sit down and talk and think. Okay, so now you say, okay, the brain, we're going to go back to as a computer, right? So there's 10 thoughts, we can pick and choose which one we want now, right? But I was saying, my point to it is that it's wise to grab a thought at a time. Like, we make a list. When we go to grocery store, we make a list of 20 things, right? We're always sure we're going to pick everything up, not miss anything. Same thing kind of with thoughts. You can't, like, you're in a natural way, you couldn't do it that way, but let's say you can, as we're talking now, and you start to think, well, what I'm saying, and my name is Luke, of course, Luke David Show, but so let's say that, just to introduce myself. So basically, you're going to say, okay, so I'm having few thoughts in the last few minutes when I'm sitting or laying down or whatever it is. And you say, okay, well, this one I'm thinking about right now, this one sounds important. You have to pick that. That's all your own personal thing, right? Everybody's different. So you pick that thought and you process it. And if you have the time, hopefully you do, but you want to go through it. Because if you do not spend on time, again, it's very natural not to go through things very slowly. Usually we go through fast. But we gotta process, slow down, and then you say, okay, now I'm thinking, about this problem today I had, and something. Let's say you had a problem. And let's say you went to a store or a mall or restaurant, whatever, and somebody was not nice to you, they were very rude to you, let's say that way. So these thoughts are going to go in, right? They're going to bother you later. We all are human, we will feel it regardless of like whether you're a nice person or not, you're going to still feel these things. That's the point I'm making. Meaning we are sensitive. Even though a lot of times in society feels like nobody is sensitive. No, people are sensitive, but most people are sensitive to themselves. That's the society problem. We gotta be sensitive to others. This is the part we're missing. That's all it is. Because that will create respect, mutual respect, and everything starts to work from there, you know. So anyways, back to the topic. So now we say, okay, what are we going to do? Well, the person was not nice or was bothering you. Okay, well, we think about it at some point, right? We think about it, we process it. Sometimes people get, you know, like a little bit like uncomfortable with the thoughts, you know, what happened today, whatever. But you gotta basically give it time to process. And if you feel that it's, let's say, you don't want to think about it too much. Let's say people say, oh, I don't want to think about that too much. Okay, that's fine. Like there's no exact rule. What I'm talking about, it doesn't have a specific rule. It can go vice versa. It can go whichever way is convenient for each one of us, right? But so just to explain that perspective on that context, that everybody will process in different speed, different style, and different variations. So we leave that to them. But what I'm saying, if we feel that we can slow it down and have the ability to do that, then we start to dissect the problem. Now we say, okay, this happened today, and then this is how I felt, and this is what was said to me, and should I feel this or not? Or because if I'm being nice and good person, then I have nothing to worry about, right? So I'm like, okay, so you gotta have time out, like take a little time out and think about certain things in the day that might bother you. Let's put it that way, right? So now that we put it in a separate box, so we got all that covered in the whole conversation we just had. Okay. So now we move forward, right, freely. So now we say, okay, I'm going to deal with this problem. I'm going to talk about it. Sometimes you talk to your family or friends, say, oh, you know, this happened to me and that. So the point is that, you know, we can express our emotions and thoughts and we can talk, but the thing is, by the end of the day, we have to process, which most people do. Most saying they don't, they do usually. They're like, you know, okay, so let this go, let this go. So sometimes the magic word is let go, right? So and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's opposite, right? Again. So, but let go means like, let's let this thing not stop bothering you anymore. Just let it go. So like I've experienced through this. So now I'm not talking about just as a person, but in terms of astrological knowledge, information. That's where I'm coming from in this, you know, show context and all that. So my point is, going back to astrology, that if we understand the basics of what I was trying to mention, how the mind works and how thoughts work, there's a design to human brain, right? There is also design to human body, biology, body, all kinds of stuff. And then also design to our thoughts. So we have to train ourselves first to first be high conscious level to even understand what I just said, right? So it took me like, let's say 10, 15 years to get where I am now to talk about this. Like this wasn't overnight, of course, no. But if I'm sharing my knowledge to the world, to the audience, in a way, like transparently, freely, honestly, then in that situation, the information from me to the audience could help someone understand things better for their own betterment or for their own, you know, or whatever their thoughts are, whatever their uniqueness is. So they can say, okay, yeah, this one sounds okay to me. Or what Luke is saying, maybe this one I'll put in a different situation, it works, okay. Not always everything works in one. Like I said, everybody is different, unique. So keep that in mind. But now we say, okay, so we slow down. And we say, oh, this thought is, you know, oh, so what do? You can't become a scientist overnight, right? You can't master everything overnight. Like it took me many years to sit down and think about this, right? But I'm sharing that knowledge with you openly, transparently, at a speed that you can hear this and you can adopt it quickly. You don't have to go through 10, 15-year experience. Like my point is, if I have something to share, talk about, you can benefit from it the best you can in your own unique way. That's the whole point of this whole conversation with part one. That's part one, right? The benefits of the information, conversation, knowledge, wisdom. Now somebody will say, well, most people say the knowledge comes from religion. I said, okay, I'm listening. And then people say knowledge comes from self-awareness. Okay, I'm listening there too. Yeah. Now some people say knowledge comes from being alone. Okay, fine. So point is that knowledge can come to you at any point. Because knowledge is out there, right? It's not something sitting beside us. It's everywhere, like the universe. So we can tap into it whenever we have the time, and it can be accessible to us if we try to connect to it. So how do we get knowledge? Just we go get knowledge by somebody saying something. Oh, it's knowledge here. Yes, conversations, socializing, talking, all that. Yeah, knowledge. Because we're learning, right? We're learning all the time. So I talked to one person a while ago. So he said, oh, Luke, I'm practicing breathing exercises, meditation, yoga, or anything, all that. I say, oh yeah, that's right. Now I don't do that because again, my situation is unique. I don't have the time. I'm doing other spiritual knowledge findings and working in those things. We can only do so many things in one life or one time anyway, right? We get that, of course. So now I said, okay, well, that's nice. I want to hear that because I didn't have the time to do it. What's going on? Well, we talked a little bit here. The guy sounds very smart, very, very high frequency. It sounds good. But he made a mistake. That's the one I'm trying to share today. He said, look, by doing all these things, I said, yeah, trying to figure it all out, that's wonderful. I said, yeah. But then he said, but we are here to learn, and we learn, we make mistakes. Now, he's another person, like call him person, like A, person A, I'm person B, let's say A, B, right? So of course, again, two different people, two different experiences, environment, life, everything different, right? Even though we're living in the same society, in the same town or city, and all that kind of stuff. Right? So now he was in Barrie, Ontario, where I used to live for over a decade, a while ago. Now it's 2025, right? Today is August 26th, I guess, or 25th, 2025. So now I said, okay, I'm listening. So what happened with this person? Because we all know, naturally, as we were trying to figure out things right now in this conversation, that we all make mistakes, of course. That's the natural part. But to make a mistake and say that we are made that way to keep making mistakes, and we are made the way to keep learning. So that, I had an issue with it, right? So I talked to him, I said, look, that's all fine. That's common knowledge, common sense. I understand because we're talking, right? All of us like now talking about it with the audience. But I said there's a problem with it, and the problem is simple. It's not complicated. Yes, we make mistakes, and yes, we learn. But if we keep making mistakes, just think about it for a minute. If we keep making mistakes, we'll never learn. And if you say we're always learning, so we'll never master anything. Now, I'm not saying in the way it was said to me in the context. I'm talking about reality now. We're coming back to reality from the cosmos, astrological universe, back to practicality. Now we're discussing in a different realm. Reality is that yes, we make mistakes, and yes, we are learning. I'm even learning and I'm talking to you, of course. But those learning things are so small, minute, that you won't feel them, right? You're just going through them as you talk. As I'm talking to the audience for the first time in this show, I'm learning as I'm talking, as I'm communicating, right? So that's okay. That's normal, right? That learning is fine. And if you made a mistake with a word, all that stuff, that's normal too. But to have a mindset, you see what I'm getting at? Not talking about mistakes and learning, but if you have a mindset and you wake up every day thinking, well, we're still learning and we're going to make mistakes, then you might not get there, is what I'm trying to say. Mistakes will happen naturally, learning will continue, as I said, but we have to be on a higher frequency level. Meaning, like, if you're spiritual, calm, peaceful, humble, then we can reach heights of spirituality, and that's part of astrology. We're going to get into that later, part 2, 3, 4. But now, so we have to just understand this. So I hope I've shared enough today. Like, I mean, by what that I meant, like, I hope I've shared enough today just to get the thoughts going. See, the first show is not about anything specific, as you can see. It's just about the basic concept of human design, soul design, mind design, brain design, thought design, all of it. It's a design. And if we tap into the design, then we see, you see how things come to us. Once we know how things come to us, then we can process better. If a computer does not know what's coming in, it can have an error on the screen, right? And we all get, oh boy, what is going on? What kind of computers are they? They're not smart at all, right? So that's the human thing too. So we are smart only when we process it properly, right? If we're not processing, then we don't know what we're doing, I guess. So that's the thing. So just let it slow and let it process. And let's also decide as each unique person for our freedom that how do we want to react to it. Like most times I will say just let go, right? Like based on not just my life, and everybody's life is similar in that way, goes through things. But I mean just based on the time we have on this earth, right? It's so short that there's not enough time to worry about every little thing. So my point was to make your priorities, your agenda, get the important things in line first, and don't worry about the smaller things now. Worry about the bigger things first, right? Now, if somebody says, well, the smaller things are bothering me more than the bigger thing, okay, then you put them first in the list. However it works for you, right? You do it that way, I guess. Your own choice. So now, we're going to discuss a little more. We're going to discuss, well, for the next show also, we're going to mention a few things, but what we're going to discuss now. So this show we discussed, we get you some idea about the concepts, right, of the going to back to astrology again now. So how this human design working, and then we have a pre-programmed astrological parallel universe running beside us, within us. So think about the complexity here. Eh? As simple as we are, no, we are extremely complex. That's what I found anyways. That's what my knowledge says. We are extremely, uniquely, very, very complex. To the point that every minute, when we're doing other things, as I said, the thoughts coming in, things changing, all kinds of stuff happening, uniqueness is there, each person, of course. But if we slow down, thought process, see the pattern, how it comes, how the thought comes in the mind and the brain and processes, and then goes into our emotions and, all this. So this is one part of it. So I'm sure you got that part pretty good today. That was quite a long discussion just about those basic things. Now, one or two more things I want to mention in today's show. These important things. So we're talking about it. Personality. Now, personality is also a big issue, right? Because personality, based on the knowledge information I have, it comes again from your blueprint chart from birth, from astrology, right? Now somebody will say that, okay, then what about people's environment? Yes, that's affected us too. So think of it this way: if somebody has a bad personality and they're put in a bad environment, what do you think is going to happen? Right? Common sense. They already are having a bad time, personality, and now they're in a bad situation, so it doesn't help. You see what I mean? 2 + 2 = 4. But now if you put a good person, like a good personality, a good personality, you put that person into a good situation. What do you think happens? They become so remarkable person because they already have a good personality, they are very positive, and now they can have the opportunity to connect to their positive personality, to live in that simulation, to live in that drama of life in a positive way. Because the life is coming back at you in a positive way. You see what I'm saying? This is the thing, the yin-yang thing, the balance. So that's the thing. So if things affect astrologically, yes, but environment affects you too. So what I'm trying to make a point in this conversation, that at least we should try to master the astrological part of things. We may not be able to solve the environment problems always. I mean, we will be like, let's say, you might say, well, it's where I live, what city I live, what country I live, what culture, where I want to live, all that stuff. You can decide that, but you can't always do it, right? Costs money to go stuff and do things where you want to be. So that takes time, right, to make those plans for life. But then in the same time, you gotta be more cautious about the astrological stuff, because even if you got everything done the way you're thinking, you're gonna get it done. Again, you might have missed a lot of astrological things happening. Not saying like everything, but enough importance that when you look back, you're like, I missed a lot of stuff. I just went through straight and didn't look left, right, and missed a lot of stuff. And how come I end up in this place, or how come I end up there? It doesn't always end positively, understand? So what I'm saying, you can't control the positive negativity of always what's going to happen next. But my point to today's conversation is we gotta be aware, have high frequency cautious level, and we are slowing down, and then it may still be coming to us. You know, like still something will happen and we will feel, oh, what happened? But now at least your level of frequency awareness, your own system is very in tune, very in sync with yourself and around you. So now you can tackle, you can fight these problems quickly, not panic so much, not worry about it so much, don't get upset about it so much, don't get over emotional about it, because you know that you're in tune and you will tackle it wisely, not quickly always, slowly, but in a quickly manner with a slow thinking process to get to the real problem, the cause, the solution for the source of the problem, the root cause. So that kind of thing. So my point is, again, before we end the show today, that without the control of the human design mind, the brain, the thoughts, right, the whole system we have here, is dysfunctional, right? I mean, we have basic things that we do anyway, like I said, that natural stuff, right? But imagine if all that stuff wasn't there, we won't be able to function at all, right? Think about it. So this is what I'm saying. Now, I'm not talking about that aspect of it, but my point is that there is basic functions of brain, the human, walking, sleeping, moving, understanding, coordination, everything. But there's also another side of things that are going on inside us. Outside we're very intelligent. Oh, I'm walking, I'm sitting, it's a natural program, I guess, in our brain, right? You don't have to always learn. Sure, we learn as children, but most stuff comes, it's naturally there. But this stuff, if we leave it alone for 20, 30 years, we get into midlife crisis or we get older. So then we say, oh, okay, now I'll get into it. Now, okay, it doesn't matter what age you get into it. What we're talking about, right, is like there's no age bind to it. I mean, mostly I will discuss other things in the future that would be recommended for somebody who's, this is a recommendation, would at least finish high school or at least 18 years old, because we will get into more complex things, right? So that I would recommend for those age group, 18 and above. But in general, I'm saying, conversation like what can we do here, right? I mean, we have to figure out, okay, so now you're doing this, and the environment, so internally, if we don't focus on all that, our nervous system and our emotions, our thoughts, everything affects, right? So impacts. So if we focus on take it from, we're grabbing the situation from astrological point of view, we were going to drag this situation from, grab it from, from a numerologically point of view, we're going to get into that. We're going to grab the same situation in a spiritual way. We're going to grab the same situation in the energy, right? We're going to grab the same situation understanding human design. We're going to grab the same situation understanding the thought design, the brain design. Now, if we take this many grabs on each situation, just imagine for a minute the knowledge that we would have just following these basic 1, 2, 3, 4 steps that anybody can, as long as they can follow instructions, right? So this will be easy for all of us. So that's why I said when we get into complex stuff, 18 plus, I would say. But then we have to say, okay, so Now if you're grabbing a situation from different views, now we got a better perspective on it, right? That's my whole point. So again, so this first show was just introducing few things, and then the second show will start with, like I mentioned, the numerology and the things, and the vibration of numbers and how the vibration affects us, how the day we are born, like let's say somebody is born on the 5th day or the first day or the second day, or born on the 16th, which is 1 and 6, 7, born on the 18th, which is 9, born on the 21 is a 3. So those energies we have to understand from 0 to 10 kind of, right, or 11 and all that up. But we have to understand, because that is another thing. So there's vibrations inside us moving with the date of birth, the day we are born, the day vibration, the number, numerology. We got astrological things happening, like I said. So I'm sure most of you have agreed by now, we are the universe, as you can see. And there's a lot more coming when we talk on the next show. This is just the beginning. We are just unlocking our minds without any boundaries, meaning we can learn the good, positive knowledge, understanding of things, you know. So again, thank you for being here. Whoever is listening, this is the first show. So we'll see how many views we get, but there will be many other shows after this. This is part 1. Right? And my name is Luke Diamond. I'm in Canada, Ontario, Canada, right now. And we will talk about other things. We'll bring guests in the show through Zoom meetings and some physically bringing guests through and things like that. So there'll be a lot of interesting discussions. But I hope in today's ABCD, or 1, 2, 3, 4, we have learned, or at least understood what I said, the basics, very, very basic things. Not complicated. I'm sure I haven't said anything complex at all. I mean, I've mentioned a few things here and there, but most of conversation today has been simple stuff. Understand and wait for the next show to see where do we go from there, right, to the next level. Like I took some simple stuff, I took some complex stuff, put it together so we can understand 1, 2, 3, 4 till 10, and then A, B, C, D to Z, right? So we can kind of understand that that's what we'll be dealing with, all of that, but in more complex way, much more complex, right? This is going to be sort of mathematical now, not mathematics, but mathematical, because universe, quantum physics, all, you know, as you know, science, all these different things, they are all part of mathematical things too. There's a mathematical formula, there's a mathematical vibe and calculation to a lot of things in the universe, right? So mathematics is there, but in a spiritual sense we're talking about all this, right? So thank you for watching the show today. Next show will be coming shortly, not immediately of course, but shortly. And I'm just going to sit here around, today was like around 11 o'clock, over midnight, after midnight, and started the show around midnight, so on the August 26th, midnight August. And so whenever I get the time, we'll come back here and go to the second show, and your comments will be appreciated a lot. And if you do want to reach out to me and discuss further, and the services that I provide, we'll talk about that. But there's meditation services, there's astrology services, reading, other services for healing like energy and stuff. So there's lots of services that I can provide, but we'll see. If somebody is in need of those services, definitely contact me at or text me, at 705-728-1928. And my email is info@luke, L-U-K-E, diamond, D-I-A-M-O-N-D, .co.uk. And also check out my basic website, www.lukediamond.co.uk. And that's where you will find the links to my book, my music, and other things that I'm, getting involved with slowly. And we'll go from there. Right? This is just the first show, so we'll get into all those products that I have and and things that will help this show. So basically what we're saying, that whether people want to give a donation to this show, or they want to buy the products, whichever way they want to support it, or subscribe. Lots of ways to support, right? Subscribe, interact with the author of the show, that's me, definitely, and then we will go from there. See what happens next, right? Like it's August 26th now, 2025, and everybody have a nice day, and have a blessed day. Take care.